Hello, everyone. Hi, Akbar. Hi, Ramon. Hi, Varun. Good morning, good evening,
Hello.
early morning in Chicago.
Yes, it is.
I'm just waiting for people to show up on the chat here. It's 8 p.m. All right. I hear that people are on. So let's begin. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. This is going to be an exciting LinkedIn Live today. This is second in our Fractal Dimension series of LinkedIn Lives for Fractal. This time we are talking on AI ethics, a very topical topic today. Hi, Vineet. So let me first introduce myself, the team, and the topic, and then we will get going. Hello, Arnaud. I am a client partner at Fractal, currently leading Fractal Dimension. Been with Fractal for about 14 years now. Have seen the 100x growth of Fractal. Super exciting. Currently at Fractal Dimension, we are trying to solve complex problems using AI, engineering, human-centered design, and behavioral sciences. And we're solving problems like sustainability, AI ethics, personalization for customer acquisition and retention, gender neutral fashion, C-suite leadership agenda, transforming home insurance, underwriting and claims, healthcare digital adoption, disintermediation of direct to consumer experiences, and so on. So bunch of problem statements across various practices industries, and we are also trying to look at various lenses to it. And while Fractal is trying to deliver these massive analytic programs to deliver value, um, superlative value, around $1 billion or so. We are also registering that the world is facing so many dilemmas across its various entities: human beings, society, communities, the environment, and the planet overall. There are so many levels of complexities here when we are trying to build these new solutions using technology. And of course, the new gen technology like deep learning, neural nets, the high end AI. Um, Obviously the questions have started arising. Are we doing the right thing? Are we doing it in the right way? Are we being responsible to all the parties involved? And that's the genesis of today's conversation. How can organizations successfully implement responsible AI practices and principles in action while solving these grave, complex human and societal problems? And to discuss this topic, I have my partners in crime, who I'm privileged to introduce you all to. Akbar Mohammed is a data scientist at Fractal with extensive expertise in designing large scale machine learning applications for Fortune 100 companies. He's also implementing internal AI capabilities for those companies and solving complex problems for C suite, including digital strategy, AI ethics, and others. We also have Ramon Serralonga, lead data scientist at Fractal, with experience in algorithmic decision making and design thinking, a rare combination, and solution development in several industries. He is also a founding member of My Data Global, an international nonprofit to empower individuals to improve their right to self determination regarding their personal data, and he's also collaborating with us here. He'll also talk about that in a minute. Varun Singh plays the role of a senior data engineer in our teams, and he has expertise in building real-time engineering applications and machine learning solutions for Fortune 100 companies. Again, he's one of the founding members of the big data practice at Fractal. He's built several solutions for many of our clients in financial services, telecom, healthcare, and others. He's also collaborating with us on creating the Fractal AI ethics or responsible AI framework since the beginning. And there are a few others in Fractal who have been deeply involved in this journey. And as we know, AI is definitely influencing almost all aspects of our lives in a subtle way or direct way. and whether you consider personalized, searches, shopping experiences online, digitization, and so on. And it's going to increase continuously because of the increasing amount of data, complexity of problems, and of course the awareness that technology can solve many difficult problems. To achieve this, we will have to enable machines to take a lot of decisions. And how are we regulating these machines and algorithms to make these decisions? That's the question today. Some industries like healthcare, financial services, insurance companies, right? They are fairly regulated today across countries, and they are ahead of the curve in terms of how they are implementing these. But other industries and also newer use cases using AI have not been explored. How these policies will be created, how companies, countries will look at such practices. Recently, we know Europe is starting to think about the AI bill. US is, India is starting to think of all of these, right? So most countries will start soon, or may have already started to think about this and implement it at a country level. And it's imperative for companies as well to start now, thinking about this. So let me share my screen now to share a couple of ideas on what we have created at Fractal as a responsible AI framework, and then we can dive right into the Q&A. All right, I hope you can see my screen. Akbar or somebody, can you just give me a yes?
Yeah, yes, we do.
Thank you. I can not see anybody, so that's the flaw here. Um, yeah, so looking at various the preamble that I shared, right? There are so many different issues that we are dealing with here, and we try to represent this as simply as possible here, right? There is a conflict of a society where you've signed a legal social construct and you are bound by the laws which are not sufficient for you to engage in business ethics or individual morality. um, and these may seem very similar, but they are overlapping but not the same. um, Point in case, if my family is hungry, I might go ahead and do a criminal activity which is against society, but for my individual morality it might be okay. And there are so many other dilemmas that we can think of from a philosophical perspective. But this is a simpler representation of what we are considering as business ethics for responsible AI. It may also include personal ethics or individual morality at certain points of time. And also, of course, we are suggesting that we have to follow all legal frameworks within each country that we are operating in, and within the context of that legal regulation or law, right? So, with that frame in mind, you can see that we have to balance a lot of things. These are the principles and behaviors we felt from our literature review, research, primary and secondary. We've been able to create a simple yet comprehensive framework which deep dives into principles, behaviors, and toolkit. On the principles, fairly straightforward, starting with transparency, which is one of the foremost principles that Fractal believes in. And we believe everyone who's building, using data, building an AI model, using it for any consumer intervention, should be able to share that openly with the end consumer, with the business, with your clients. And it also includes the decision factors which you're using to make decisions, or which the machine used to make decisions, or the combination of man and machine and AI used to make that decision. Can we white box this process? The answer is yes, we can and we should. The more trust you provide to others, the more trust you get in return. So that's the first principle that we believe in. The second being accountability, which assumes, and this is a stance we are taking, which assumes humans are responsible for, human agents are responsible beyond AI agents to be responsible on the outcomes that are being generated. We are not saying AI is at fault, but we are saying the organization, the human beings that are running the AI algorithms are the ones who should own the responsibility. And in cases of dilemmas, when they have to make choices, they should debate, discuss with their end users, clients, businesses, with the governance ethic committees, debate it out, conclude it, and then document what decisions are you making. And in a scenario where you have to publish the document, what we are calling as the newspaper test, are you willing to publish this in the front page of a newspaper and be proud about it and not embarrassed or scared about it? Can you have that much clarity? So that's the strict accountability that we are talking about here. Um, the third being privacy. I think this is one of the most famous principles in general being talked about, where is my data being misused, or is my data am I being considered as a row in an Excel file basically? Can I have more power of my data? Can I be forgotten in my data set? And so on. So there are various lenses to it. We propose that we will follow all the legal regulations, of course, in each country, because this is quite different across the world, and also take the highest benchmark available in that country with respect to implementation. And for example, in Japan, you can explore data monetization. In countries like India, maybe you cannot do it today, but maybe in the future. In Europe, there is of course GDPR, very strict. But all of the countries are conducive to the use of AI. And lastly, the fairness element, right, where we believe that humans have artificially segmented people into various buckets. We call it sex, gender, race, age, any number of things. All these groups don't deserve to be bucketed, and we believe they cannot be discriminated against. While human brain, simplifies things, and it helps a lot in the daily decision making when you're dealing with other humans. When you enable an AI to do that, you won't even know how those discrimination is happening as outcomes. So we believe we should explore the human mind or human centricity, explore the biases, evaluate those biases. Some may be good, some may be bad, and this will of course change with time as well. And then if you can, you should debias the data, the model, the outcome as much as possible. And of course document this, debate it out. There are tools available in this age which are being used, and there will be better tools available tomorrow to do this as well. So those are the principles, and I think most of the behaviors also are related to those principles. The last one, the last behavior, adaptability, is one where we are saying if you fail in building the model in the right way, or the outcome is a failure, or if you believe the data set was incomplete in some way, it's not representative of the population, or the new signal has arrived that you have to include, like a COVID variable in a forecasting model, which will go wrong in a COVID time. Um, the responsibility of the company is to adapt, and you have to proactively explore, recalibrate the model, get new data sets, augment your data with external data, and that's the behavior we're expecting people to inculcate. And finally, that there's a toolkit we are making. Some of it is already complete and is in use. Some of it is in the making. There's a framework of adoption, training, socialization with storytelling of dilemmas. How will you solve an X dilemma, which is a little more philosophical than real coding, but that's required for self-reflection as well across all practitioners. Then there is a product which we are building, which can continuously monitor whether you are following the principles, how to correct the principles, correctly implement the principles, and also do a risk assessment. How do you fare in the principles? Can you do benchmarking of your projects? And then we can create a repository and start seeing what is the score in a way. Are you increasing the score, decreasing the score? Are you widening the democratization through courses? We are launching credited courses which people can take to certify themselves, certify their companies, and so on. And so there is a bunch of stuff going on in Fractal. This was just a teaser to share in this discussion, but there will be a white paper published very soon on this, and I think a series of white papers will follow after that as well. I'll stop sharing now. I'm sure you want everyone else to also start engaging. Let me go back to my screen. Hopefully, yeah, it stopped sharing. Great. All right. So with that preamble, I'm going to ask a couple of three questions, one each to my co-presenters, and let them introspect on those, and then we will open the session to the audience, and happy to answer any questions there. Let's make this as interactive as possible. So I'll start with alphabetically with Akbar. Hey Akbar, my question, and I think we've discussed a little bit on this earlier, is if a person like let's say suicide methods to kill herself, how should the AI engine respond, assuming there's a personalization engine here at play? Uh, what are your thoughts on this? And Ramon and Varun, you can follow as well.
Yeah, there are several layers to this. Let me unbundle a few. I'll start with the AI. AI as a practitioner. You have several choices in creating these solutions. The first choice, you can stop at just detecting the risk of a person, let's say, thinking of doing self-harm. Another choice could be maybe the AI intervenes on your behalf. It could probably reach out to healthcare workers to seek help, or maybe connect you with your social network and ask them to reach out to you. Another choice could be the AI itself starts having a conversation with you. Now, each of these choices, there are benefits. You are at the end of the day trying to help a person, right? Um, but with each choice, there are also some ethical dilemmas. Take, for instance, the most basic one where you're just detecting the risk. If it's within a healthcare context where there are established practices, there are regulatory norms where accountability is high, um, uh, having such a solution may be managed well, may be appropriate in creating these AI solutions. But if it's in a private entity, there's a risk of misuse. There could be data that can be leaked or data that can be used to deny you services based on this intelligence. Right? There's that first ethical dilemma. See, on the second choice, where the machine is intervening on your behalf, uh, there is some level of loss in terms of human autonomy. You're also in a situation where your privacy is being questioned or is at risk. Now, these are some of the ethical dilemmas that we see, and all of these examples are live cases that we observe across the world. Now, if you step back if you take a few steps back, there's the societal considerations. There might be societies or cultures that may value individual autonomy. There might be some societies that would think the benefit overall to society is more important than anything else. So, as a practitioner, there are no clear choices. So you have to be, what we've learned from all this is discussing internally, reviewing, researching, is that as a practitioner, you need to be aware, you need to be educated uh, in, um, in ethical dilemmas. You need to be conscious in making those choices and designing AI for people. Separately, as an AI practitioner, you also need to think about human values. You need to align yourself with the human need and also balancing your human needs with business needs and also the environmental needs. This is but a small perspective of a lot of conversations that we've been having. I'm sure Ramon, Varun, even you, Sagar, have other ideas. Feel free to add on. I'll just share what I think in a brief moment. I'll pause here.
Okay, so here precisely, I think that as you mentioned, some problems are easier to tackle than others, and in this case, you have to take a decision on which topics do you want to address, or as I said, different societies can have different values, and precisely I think that in this kind of difficult topics, where it's very difficult to draw the line between good and bad, and it depends a lot on communities, values of each community. I think that precisely this is enforcing the way of thinking that precisely AI ethics can be a source of differentiation. So we already have other, or we already had other kind of problems. For instance, I know that a famous one that was not involving AI was if people wanting to work for a company that builds weapons. So of course your product is going to be used in a war of some kind. So we already had different discussion in terms of ethical things, and that was a kind of source of differentiation. And I would say that this is just another one, another one. And I would not say that, or I think that there are things that it's not good and bad. So yeah, you may imagine that you are a company that takes the position that, look, I will support the individual, whatever is what the individual wants. So if the individual wants to commit suicide, I will be there for the individual. That is a position that one company could take. And of course, you cannot expect that everybody will support you, and indeed you can expect criticism of some groups for that. But this is just like maybe a very naive example, but to show that with AI ethics you can create differentiation of your company on how do you work, how do you approach the problems. So some companies will know, look, for certain topics this is a good partner. For other topics, maybe that is a better partner. So yeah, I just wanted to make this comment on this.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
So I think what Akbar and Ramon both are trying to emphasize is that on the fact that we are working on the basis that we will not do any harm, and the intent of the solution that we are building is for human benefits. So if somebody is coming to us, say for a suicidal query, anything in that direction will not be beneficial for that particular individual. So we will need to decide how do we tackle this. This is, as Ramon mentioned, right? There's no right or wrong to this. We will have to decide how on a case-by-case basis on severity, how do we do this. But if we have a principles of no self-harm or public beneficial, or we will sort of support decisions going forward, it will make life very simple, and it will help us stand out as people who are building great products for people.
Yep. Yeah, likely how companies express
Conclude,
themselves
Arun.
through AI.
Great perspective.
Yeah. Thanks, Ramon. Thanks, Varun. So I'll give it back to you for our next question.
Thanks. I think that was very well-rounded. I have a couple of questions. That give me just maybe 3-4 minutes. I wanted to learn from Ramon because he's been working in data global. That's something he did. AI engineer, very cool, very rare. Privacy is a topic which is very close to heart. Can you help us the perspective on that?
Yes, well, privacy. Let me just let me organize my mind. So I would say that the foundation is who owns the data, who is the owner of the data. Nowadays, or we have to realize that even if AI and big data have made a lot of noise in the last years, it's a very early technology. So for instance, the deep learning became mainstream or was in the headlines in 2012, so less than 10 years ago. And I would say that maybe just and also that the buzzword of big data was also around the same time. So altogether, it's a very young technology, and things need time. I would say that as a society, since changes happen every time faster, we are also becoming more impatient. But the truth is that some things take time, and we are in the early stages of this new technology. So privacy, or I was saying that who owns the data? I would say that in the early stages of this new technological wave, data was something that was not. It was a new product. or a new good, and it was not clear how to deal with it. And companies like Facebook's, Google's, and these big companies have been the ones who have stored the data and owned it and dealt with it in the way that they wanted and that was more convenient for them. We got good things so for instance, Facebook is free, and we have a lot of services that are free just by giving up your data. But then there has been the question, okay, but who is the owner of that data? If it is my personal data, so is it good that any company can do anything what they want with the data? And what is like that before that right did not exist? But what about forgetting the things that they have done? Because if there is a digital trace, the trace is there, and it will be there forever, and you are not even being able to be forgotten. So what is the new paradigm? The new paradigm is that, well, as technology evolves, we are starting to put regulation like GDPR as flagship, and we are little by little building the concept that, well, the data that if it's personal data, so let's make the clear differentiation: personal data, non-personal. The personal data, the owner is the person. It's that the database of the data that you generate. You are the owner. And then you can do whatever you want with your data. You can just keep it to yourself and nobody can use it. You can sell it. You can give like the rights of use. So you can trade with it. And I would say that's the way to go. That you can trade with the good that you generate. So it can also generate revenue for you, and you decide who uses it when it is used. If you keep the control, and then, instead of being these big technological companies, the ones who manage your data in the way they want, and yes, many times we sign there is like please check this checkbox that it's very little, very tiny words, tiny letters saying that you're giving up all everything and all your rights. But then it's like, well, if I want to use this, unless I click the checkbox, I don't have access. So we are on the way. We are on the way to that place where we have repositories of data that you control, and then you decide what to do. And you can give like the rights for your data. You sell them for, I don't know, X amount of money, and then look, whoever now I am transferring the right of use of this data, and they will do with my data whatever they want. Or but the thing is that I choose. So that's and so the thing is that this personalization, or how the world makes use of data available, it is good as long as it is permitted. So the property rights are well defined by the society, and then so once the property rights are well defined, then of course the one who has the ownership can do with the data anything they want. And I mean that I would say that is a very important part, that it's ownership. And then and the next step that it's so we are because we have some examples of controversies of AI and biases, and at the end all this new technology is coming for good, and we will get a lot of good impact on this personalization and this knowing things that nowadays we ignore, that thanks to data and AI we will now know. So it will be good to society. So I would say that there is no doubt on that. The only thing is that so far the people were not in the middle. We are not, and we have to make big data and AI by the people, for the people, and putting people in the middle.
Beautiful. I remember once, I think you told me maybe a year back, Ramon, that if we have a camera in every room, in every house, in every country of the world, our jails will never be empty. So yeah, we decide what we do with our data. Beautiful. I want to go next to an interesting angle of transparency, and this is in reference to this is for you, and you been working on similar big data for problem state spaces, right? Where you can solve the problem and you can mention for a user, end user, or customer. But do you tell them that you've used AI to make that decision? Um, what do you think? And you take any use case, medicine is the easiest use case here, where a machine is diagnosing a patient and the patient doesn't know that the machine is doing that. So think on that.
So yeah, Sagar, very rightly put, right? We are talking about transparency, and I will fall back to maybe healthcare or a patient-doctor conversation, where the doctor is definitely trying to use AI for the betterment of the patient, like trying to recommend better practices, maybe recommend a lifestyle change. But why should he be transparent with the patient when it comes to using AI, or sort of being very transparent when it comes to what is the method that he's using to prescribe a lifestyle change? The answer lies in the question of how much trust do we want our users to have on the systems that we are building for them. And if we've all seen this in the past, trust can be a major barrier when it comes to adoption of new technology or new change. So if you want the trust of the user to go up, you would want your transparency to sort of reflect in that same scenario. And the more transparent you are, the likelihood is that the user is going to trust you even more. So I can take an example of my dad, right? He was pretty fit before pandemic hit us. His sugar levels were doing great and all of that. Then pandemic hit us, and then he took a sedentary lifestyle. His weight went on going up. Now assume 6 months later he meets a doctor who's using an AI-based system to make recommendation on how much weight he should lose, what are the lifestyle changes he should make. And he just tells him that, you know what, if you cut down your weight by 3 4 kilos, and you sort of implement a few other routines, and I'm prescribing a few other things based on an application that we've built, which is learning from a lot of people in your age group having similar lifestyle as you, and explaining what are the parameters that he's taken into. My dad is more likely to lean towards this fact that, oh, okay, there is a lot of research that has gone into. I am seeing people who are sort of in the age group that I am and having similar benefits of following this lifestyle. The adherence will increase with transparency versus imagine the scenario where my doctor just tells my dad, oh, you know what, you need to lose this much weight, otherwise you will land up into trouble. And my dad like, how are you making that conclusion? He's like, no, I am making that conclusion based on what my system is telling me. And this black box is what people are sort of constantly in anxiety with when it comes to AI. And that's why they are not readily accepting, because they don't understand how this is happening, why this is happening, and they really need to understand the why behind what they are seeing. Otherwise, adoption will always be a challenge when it comes to new technology, right? We will never, and there is enough surveys, and I was talking to you guys last week about this, right? I was looking at a survey which sort of compared what is the trust that people have, or how readily are they going to accept AI-based recommendation when it comes to retail, hospitality, and healthcare. The retail and hospitality numbers are way up. Like they are like 60% people would readily accept it. But when it comes to healthcare, the number shoots down to 20%. And as soon as you enter the age group of 65 to 60 people, that percentage even drops further to 10%. So if you need this adoption to go faster, and if you need people to be more agile to adopting this, we will have to sort of be more transparent and explain how are we doing what we are doing. Ramon, Akbar, that I think I spoke for pretty long, but I think that sort of answers why we are emphasizing on transparency so much.
Here and emphasize transparency in all cases, extend a trustworthy conversation, be open, white box about the process. I think all these great things have been happening, and we are seeing the results of that in many cases as well. We've spoken for about 35 minutes now. We have 10 more minutes lying there, and people who are on the call, please write your questions, thoughts. Feel free to do it. We'll of course answer them now, and even after this meeting, we can have a conversation. So let's go to the first question. Time-wise was the LinkedIn user says, would it be possible to see a copy of the literature review you referenced? Happy to connect and talk. It's something we can share. It's about 30 to 35 or maybe even 40 companies and research institutions, organizations that we have researched. We've gone through their AI ethics framework, how they are implementing it, thinking about it, what are the pitfalls. We've done that research. We also try to implement our own AI ethics framework on our own AI ethics framework. So we are trying to trace, you know, which idea in our framework is derived from which literature review. That we are giving it a shot, but pretty much I think the bigger companies and organizations, we've looked into all of them, and we feel pretty confident about this. Time will tell when we learn from real implementations whether this is sufficiently good, or maybe it's too strict. We will learn that through experiments across various industries. So the name, connect with me or anybody on this group on LinkedIn or otherwise. We'll be happy to have a discussion and share that with you. We can't see your name. I think it's anonymous. Anything else you want to add, Akbar, Ramon, Varun, on this question?
Yeah, I also want to share that we've also looked at the things from first principles. There was a lot of philosophy that we looked at to come to different threads, and then finally looked at what the world is doing in the AI ethics space, and eventually came up with our own formulation in terms of what we value as a company, and as individuals. Yeah, we had a long conversation, and this is more than a year in making. Sagar, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
We've
almost.
been discussing this in many ways, many forms. We've been practicing some of these in our organization. It's only now that we are consciously bringing out to the world. That's basically where we are.
Yeah, we're testing it on edge cases right now so that it passes or fails that test. If it passes that test, then I think all the other tests will also be valid. Uh, all right, so let's go to the next question. I think that's the last question here, it seems, unless I'm missing something. Yeah, by Chahat Agrawal, right? Hey, I have a question. Do you have any thoughts with respect to sustainability aspects, goals incorporated during the journey of Fractal Responsible AI? Any experience could be shared which you felt as wow factor? Also, are you focusing on green coding as the usual practice? Can you enlighten me on this? So, great question, Chahat. A lot of experiments going on within Fractal as well. We are implementing our framework, as we spoke about, across various kinds of projects to test whether it passes the litmus test. First, we will implement this across all Fractal projects, and all of Fractal's clients. We will have a discussion with them. How do we leverage this across the industry? We're also working with NASSCOM on this. So, bunch of things happening on a lot of Fractal on this topic. Some of this you will see in the next few weeks publicly. Now, on your more specific question on sustainability, we are doing a bunch of things in sustainability within Fractal, from ethics and non-ethics both. So some sustainability, and you can actually discuss sustainability, the ethical self, when you think of it as a entity that we have to see in our consideration set. That's one of the humans, societies, communities, and the planet. When you look at the planet and look at sustainability, the environment, social governance, yes, goals that are perceived. We are also trying to measure those for Fractal. We are also implementing some computer vision, machine vision techniques to augment data to be able to measure these things better. So we are experimenting on that. We are trying to find out if we can use renewable energy for our machines, our servers. How do we explore such things? You mentioned green coding. That's one example of what we're trying to do. Maybe Varun and Akbar can talk about some other factors here. So we have a bunch of things going on this, and the sustainability. I think that's a topic where whatever you do is not enough. I think you have to just keep striving to do more and more, keep measuring, improving, and hopefully benefit the society, and in a way share those learnings with the that's something that we also are trying to create a point of view on sustainability itself. How do we measure the goals? Which are the analytical ways to support those goals across functions? Of course, supply chain is the a big one. Manufacturing, logistics, transport, all of that. That's a big one. But on the AI side itself, many things can be done. I'll invite others to also add to this if they have
Yeah,
other.
here I like to make contribution here because one of the things that I am lacking is a proper accounting of what is the impact of running electrical devices. Myself, I build models and I use my computer every day, and honestly, I have no idea of how much I am consuming by working with my computer, or how much I am consuming by the servers that I am running to train and to calculate all the data science, to run the notebooks that I have. So that for me, Sagar was saying, for instance, let's procure ourselves our company with green energy. Yeah, I would say that sounds wonderful, but I think that it's just a matter of time that we are able to have proper accounting to know what is the CEO emissions of that our consumption of electrical devices physically or in remote, like the servers to calculate to run my models. What is the impact of all that in terms of kilowatts consumed, CO2 emissions generated, and seeing those. I think that seeing those numbers, in my opinion, it's a step one. It's a step one just to be aware of what is the impact of your activity, of your work. As I said, that you can kill the problem from the very beginning. Like, okay, all the energy that I consume is green, and all the energy of the world that we consume is green. One day we will be there, and maybe we will not care anymore about CO2 emissions, but maybe just because I like to measure things. I really want to know. So at least by now, at least I want to know what is the impact of my work that currently I don't know. But I think that it's just a matter of, I'm sure that somebody has already developed something that some code that little by little will become mainstream, and sure in the near future we will be much better in that accounting of CO2 emissions and energy consumption.
Great point. Whatever improves. Um, I was almost visualizing a battery consumption thing on our laptops, right? Can we have a carbon consumption thing? You've consumed an enormous amount of energy today. Please stop. Start doing something better. Let's hope for that to happen. But I think that unless Akbar and Varun, you have any closing thoughts, are you good?
Yeah, I think just a small thought on the sustainability bit, right? When we started building on the AI ethics framework, I think a year and a half back, sustainability was something which was very fundamental to us, and I think we had now formed a team which will work in that direction. But I also want to say that it will also depend on how sustainable are these technologies that we are interacting with. And there is a big push that I am seeing in the industry currently when it comes to cloud migration or cloud environments or renewable energy. A lot of big technologies have already started to invest wholesomely and have big goals to go carbon neutral in the next 5 years. And these will help all of us move in that direction. But yeah, at Fractal, this is something that we are constantly pondering on, and this has been the fundamental that we sort of based our entire ethics framework on.
Awesome. Akbar, anything from you? Are you good?
Just that we are living in exciting times. I'm looking forward to seeing this technology improve in a responsible manner. That's what I'll leave this with. We'll be sharing more of these in our white papers and blogs. Hopefully, we'll get to see more of our content.
Awesome. With that, thank you so much, all of you, Akbar, Ramon, Varun, for hosting, for us, asking insightful questions. This topic will be evolving, so we will be publishing a series of white papers on this. We'll do another LinkedIn Live hopefully very soon, and let's keep the conversation going. This is pretty important, and we have to start somewhere. So with that, thank you everyone. Have a good day, good night, wherever you are, and we will speak to you soon.